Hi everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel, and you are currently viewing a Blackout reading reveal for Blackout number 13, the Holy Grail. Now this is my second or third attempt at this one, as I really have no patience in trying to understand the OBS. So every time I think I got it, I screw something up. So that's the reason for this third attempt. Hopefully we'll get it right this time around. There's no cameras, just a voiceover, in hopes of making this easier for everyone. Okay, so let's begin, shall we? Unbelievable. Let's begin, and my phone dings. Okay. We're just going to ignore that. So this is, again, this is YouTube reveal sessions, the Holy Grail, the feedback. My YouTube channel is Susan Davis 5576. I really believe that there should not be a space there. I think it should all be one. Correct me if I'm wrong. Remotely awake, all on my remote viewed sessions. This is what you'll find on my channel, dating all the way back to 2014 through 2025. Also, I have an IG account that's currently private, set for private, but when I reestablished that, the address is remotely awake. And of course, if you want to check my website out, it's theearlybblogger.wixsite.com/remotely-awake. Sorry, I couldn't make that any shorter. But it's a combination of blogs and the original PowerPoints of all of my remote viewed readings, including all of the Blackout ones. So if you'd like to check that out, that's the address right there. And moving on. Incidentally, if you come across any Blackout readings that do not have this page, it's probably a fraud. Most of them will be in the future recorded with a live video, so be on the lookout for that. And moving on. Whoa. So again, this is the Holy Grail. And what is the Holy Grail and what is it about? So that was the task. Well, that was the question. The target, actually. This is the target. It's been so long since I did this Blackout reading. And I've spent so much time trying to correct it that I actually forget what the subject is, and hopefully I get a lot of the information that I recorded on the first go round on this go rounds. So keep your fingers crossed. Page 2, the task. Essentially, it's what is the Holy Grail and the mystery surrounding it and its existence. For example, is it a tangible item? Could it be a person? Is it alchemy, a manifestation? What exactly is the Holy Grail? Simple enough, right? This is the first page of the Blackout number 13. It was recorded at 6, I can't read it, 6 and some change a.m. on, what is the date? Where's the date? Hopefully you guys can see the date, because this is really small. I'm getting this all from a tile size display on OBS. Because the last time I tried to view this, I blew the image up so badly and off to one side that it wasn't even viewable. So we're just going to take it from here. Okay, so up in this corner you see the ideogram. It's the first thing recorded during a remote viewed session, a CRV, which is a control remote viewed, and also I use them on the Blackout recordings. However, the difference is that with my Blackout readings, there's no identification on the envelope, so there's no coordinates of any kind, there's no leading question. There's no indication as to what the inside of the envelope contains or what the target is whatsoever. So based on that, with the ideogram, I got water, lands, interface. When you get water and land together, it's normally, right, an interface. It's some geological location where water meets land, land meets water, so forth, so on. Even if it's a puddle, right? So, what else? Like I said, I got land again, and I just can't read that. I'm not going to try and blow it up. I really am not going to try and blow it up. Structure. Yay! Okay. And over here on the right hand, we have personal aesthetic. And the only reason why I remember this was because I viewed this a little while ago while prepping for this. It is a very, very intensive thoughts in regards to some kind of documents and something coming to light, like some kind of documents coming to light. Now, this was my thoughts prior to actually starting the Blackout reading itself, with the ideogram being the first thing. And so the personal aesthetic is kind of dead on. So it's almost, or I wouldn't say almost, I would say that it was prophetic, or not necessarily prophetic, but premonition, like what is that? Yeah, like I can't think now. I can't think what it is. You guys know what it is. I don't need to tell you. Premonitory, right? A premonition? Excuse me. So, again, what I heard, first thing, before hearing any descriptives or receiving any descriptives, I heard walking on water, water activity, and something happening in water, on water. Okay, so my immediate thought was Jesus walking on water, right? And for anyone hearing that, like, would that be your first thought? do your thoughts drift to where mine does? Who do you think of when you hear walking on water? I think probably 99.9999999% of the people would think of Jesus walking on water. There might be that 0.0000001% of the people who who wouldn't think of that. But I'm kind of doubting that myself. Like, I just think 100% of the people would actually think of Jesus walking on water. So getting back to the slide, the first impression was of something like a single line. It was actually a single white line at first. And you know, I don't know if I can pause this or not, because I'm thinking I might go get my original notes on this so I can see and easily recall what it is that happens. I'm going to do that. Just hold on 1 second, guys. I'm back. Normally so much better with being prepared and having all this stuff organized than I am with this reading right here. I know that this is the last Blackout reading that I did. So here it is. Here we are. Okay, moving you back here. There we go. Yeah, it was okay. Not a white line. It was an impression of a strong line that I saw. Uh, and yeah, another clear audience. It said signal. So this turned from a strong, bold line, a white line, that transformed into a black on black rectangular image. Almost just like a shadow of something. But it was backlit with a white R in the background. Okay, so this was fading in. And then a descriptive was document. It's like I saw a document. Something written, scribbling, a cursive. Got the impression was seen from the wrong perspective, like upside down. Okay. And the second page, which is actually page 4, but the second page on my notes here, I heard or was having actually a hard time turning the page. So that came as a reference to possibly a descriptive. I did the ideogram again. Again, I got structure. I got bio, life form, movement, and air. Okay. And window, AOL, window to the soul is what came out as an AOL for that. Also, an descriptive isolation, imprisoned or kidnapped children. Now later on, I came out with like lost children, I believe. Yeah, here it is. Missing people, persons. So you could almost say like the lost children, descriptive multiple, descriptive signature. It was some kind of signature, and it was also in scriptive language that I didn't recognize. But I got the impression that it was ancient and really old. And there's a lot of languages, written languages, that I might know just by sight. For example, Greek. We kind of all know what Greek is. And Hebrew, thanks to, like things like the Dead Sea Scrolls and that kind of thing. But I kind of still felt like this was something different. And I know one of the descriptors was almost like Sanskrit, but I think it was actually even older than that. Okay. And I think the only reason why I came up with Sanskrit was because that is like one of the oldest languages there is on the planet, if I'm not mistaken. Correct me if I am wrong. So anyway, there was a focus on this signature. It's on the forefront. More descriptives are legal, specified, / specific, pertinent, and very significant. Okay, so AOL is a person of interest. Again, a lot of my AOLs are actually very relevant to the target itself. For some reason, I just always end up making them an AOL. It could be just a little bit of insecurity and hesitate. Just probably insecurity on my part. But again, in relation to the targets, almost all of the AOLs, with very few exceptions, are directly related to the targets. So I have one on the next page, which probably isn't, because the first AOL, coming under a descriptive jack, let me change this for you guys. There, you can see it for yourself. Is S, AOL S. And that kind of was a spontaneous thing. It could be relevant in some way, but not like nothing like that came up in my research. Like, or a donkey, actually, right? Aren't donkeys called jackass? So we do know that donkeys were very prevalent during the times of Jesus, and they used them for transporting items and travel, right? So the ideogram right here, right, for this particular page, the gestalt is movement and air. So they're all pretty much the same so far for all of the ideograms that are rendered in this blackout reading. More descriptives are transportation, transport, frequency, luster, again, jack, arch / arching, flag, movement, clairaudient, on the run, message, and then I break here. Okay. It's interesting to note that there's a lot more material that I come up with kind of, I guess, psychically on the video itself. So you shouldn't skip that. The original video of the reading, the remote control, or the blackout reading, because again, there's a lot of information that is on that while I'm doing the blackout reading that is not recorded on the PowerPoints, which means it's not recorded on the reveal videos, right? Does that make sense? I hope so. Okay. Like this, too. This document would be something that would not be on the initial viewing of this target. But during the research, and again, this is probably from information that came out during the initial viewing, but there was something about the Essenes, okay, where a Jewish sect that existed during the time of Jesus, BCE to the current era, that were known for their strict adherence to religious purity. Their community at Qumran, near the Dead Sea Scrolls, or near where the Dead Sea Scrolls were located. And see, I should have reread all of these because I'm having a hard time remembering. But the Essenes were also known for their study and copying religious texts, okay, which I found very, very interesting. I thought at one time, not at one time, but I still believe that probably at some point Jesus probably studied with the Essenes. There's many years of his life that aren't recorded, that are missing. I do know, or I think it's a common belief that Jesus traveled. Although some organizations, some texts, I believe even AI have claimed that Jesus never left a 5-mile radius, but we all know that that's not true because the whole family had to flee Israel to Egypt to get away from King Herod and his rule of killing all the male babies in Israel. So again, I still believe that there's a very distinct possibility. But even still, if the Essenes were studying in and around the Dead Sea, that's probably contained within the region, that 5-mile radius that everyone says that he never left, right? Also, with Qumran, I kind of think that aligns with the clairaudience on the run. For some reason, yeah, Qumran, it just feels like at times that I don't get the full, excuse me, the full audio, and the full saying, or maybe it's a little, or it's kind of like it sounds like this type thing. And Qumran and On the Run, to me, would like I definitely lean towards maybe the fact that that is something that I'm trying to relate to, the location of one place with the clairaudience that I'm receiving. Okay, but again, another reason why I may have come up with that was because of some further information that was revealed during the uh, the remote or the blackout viewing. Excuse me. Okay. All right, so I do resume for, is there a part 2? No, that's actually it. Let me see if there's any more. Yeah, again, this information is probably coming from, excuse me, someone does not want me to speak. Again, this is probably due to additional information that I was receiving during the reading. There was something about Knights Templar that came out in the beginning of the Blackout reading. If you look, let me take you back. The first page with the descriptive, where's the first page at? Okay, the bold line, the bold white line with the black. So when I was looking for information on the Knights of Templar to see if I could find any kind of evidence of a secret army that was tasked either with the Essenes or with Jesus or the apostles around that time, relating or very similar to the Knights of Templar. And of course, the consensus was that the Essenes and the apostles were very peaceful, right? Although I just recently heard on a video where Peter was a fighter, and Peter would have fought to the death, and at one time did actually want to fight for Jesus when Jesus told him to hold off. And I believe that was in the garden when Jesus was being arrested. But again, this is the image that came up, and it was very similar to, I believe, what I had seen during the remote viewing session, the blackout session. But let me just read it. So, if the task was to discover what the Holy Grail was, why does there appear to be a direct reference to not only Jesus, but also the disciple Peter, with reference to the document? And I'll get to the document later, but also the image being upside down. And when I saw that, the first thing that I thought of was also the Apostle Peter being crucified on a cross that was, is it inverted or just upside down, right? So could there have been an army formed pre-Knights of Templar to defend Jesus' name or his movements or the apostles, like I had mentioned? Could the Knights of Templar have originally been from this army? You know, like originated from this army? It doesn't seem like that much of a stretch when you remember that the Knights of Templar are already known to have been the guardian of safe passage to the Holy Land. And the Holy Land was a place that the Essenes went to often, right? And I don't know if it's through the desert or not, but the whole purpose of the Knights of Templar were, again, so that they could be escorted, or they escorted the Essenes and other nobles to the Holy Land, which was, of course, Israel, right? So from the desert to Israel and vice versa. I mean, just a simple Google search will give you more information on that. And I believe, again, during the blackout reading, that I do give more of an explanation as to what I felt at that time, which I can't recall. But it's well worth going back and listening to. And again, it is something that I suggest. But also, could some form or division of the Knights Templar have been formed as early as the time of Jesus? Could Peter have been a part of this army? Is there a hidden document with a signature? Could they have been secret oaths? Now that's interesting, because this is where I'll get back into the signature, not only that comes up as a descriptive on the Blackout reading, but also, again, in reference to this slide right here and other information that came out during the remote viewed session, or the Blackout session, as I call these. Oh, so where was I? Okay, yeah, the document. So, let me see if I can get this straight. There was my Blackout reading that was done, I believe, in April of this past year. And there was a video that came out on YouTube either in April on a later date or in May. No, I believe it was, yeah. No, it was in May, because I did the reading, and then like something like 10 days later I posted it, I believe on private, but I didn't publish it until later in April. And a few days after publishing it, I saw a video that was about a a, a geological, or is it geological, dig that I'm not going to get too much into at this point, but essentially it was in the Sea of Galilee, right, where Jesus ends, where Jesus walked on water, but also where Peter slash Simon and Andrew grew up in a house by the Sea of Galilee. We all know that they were fishermen. Nobody knew exactly where this house was, but in this document, or yeah, on this YouTube document, there was the discovery, or this, yeah, there was a discovery of a third layer to an excavation site that was already quite possibly the location of the um, site of what was it, the first church that was created by Peter, I believe, St. Peter. It was 2 floors, yeah, 2 stories. I want to say floors because they were digging down. So the top would have been the church. I believe the second level was like a bath, a community bath, which is very common in Europe to begin with, Europe and the Middle East. But there was a third level that they discovered, and underneath of it there is a perfectly preserved tile of a message from Jesus to Peter. So it was a direct quote of a message from Jesus to Peter. I wish I had wrote that down. I know that I have done, let me see if I can just get these images up so that I can read it to you directly. Of course, this is going to give me some trouble now, right? Let's see. If I can't get it up within the next few seconds. I think I'm looking in the wrong location. Just hold on. Yeah, here we go. Here it is. Let's see if I can get that document up directly. I did not get that one. Hold on. I should just stop this and look for it. Nope. That's going to take too long. I'm just going to tell you kind of paraphrasing. Jesus gives Peter the key to the kingdom, I believe it is, and the key to his kingdom, and tells him essentially that whatever Jesus says, Peter will. Oh, I can't remember. Son of a gun. Let me just get it up online real fast. Or maybe it's on, you know what? It might actually be on the next slide. Let me see. Okay. I am so wholly unprepared for this. Yeah, here it is. All right. So this is what the document says. And again, it's a mosaic on the floor of this third level of an excavated site that had been in the works for since I believe 2016. So it's not new. It's not anything that popped up. I did as much research into it as possible to make sure it was legit, and it is. So what the document says in this mosaic tile was, I will give you the keys of the kingdom of heaven, and whatever you bind on the earth shall be bound in the heaven, and whatever you loose on earth shall be loosed in heaven. Okay, so that's what this document says, which I find truly in alignment with the information that I received during the Blackout reading. And again, I highly recommend that you listen to the entire video for all of the information. Okay, so, all right, these scenes, look at that. I didn't even have to read that tiny writing. And again, this is something I'll just read. Is this why I abruptly ended? So this is the last slide. And during, if you listen to the playback of the Blackout reading, you might notice that I come abruptly to the end of the reading, and it was specifically because of the sensation or this feeling that I was getting, almost like worse than eavesdropping. It's almost like this was information that nobody should have, and it didn't feel good, you know. And if I were to come up with a word then and now, it would be sacred, but it was a feeling at the time that I couldn't describe. Okay. Oh, yeah, I do have sacred knowledge. Excuse me. See, that's how long it's been. This is why you need not to listen to me right now and just go and listen to the Blackout reading. I know it can be boring because you're just watching me writing descriptives on a paper and maybe describing a little bit of it. But again, if you're really into remote viewing and you're into religious uh, what do you call it, just history, or yeah, let's just call it history just for the moment. But if you're into that, you're going to enjoy it. It's not going to feel like an hour. You're going to be paying attention to the descriptives. You're going to be paying attention to what I'm saying. And it should be enjoyable. If it's not, then really there's really no reason to even be here, right? But if you do enjoy that type of thing, I suggest you go to the Blackout reading. But again, this is my thoughts on the Essenes and its relation, or maybe its connection to this particular Blackout reading. So I say, is this why I abruptly ended the reading and wouldn't continue it? The anxiety I suddenly felt, or maybe a premonition or sacred knowledge. Sanskrit came to mind when I was doing the viewing, but not necessarily. Only thing felt by me was that it was something I wasn't familiar with, and also probably something that I shouldn't be viewing. And I wrote some old language that I felt I'd never heard before. And it's interesting because I did a little bit of research on what language Jesus spoke or wrote, because there are no Bibles that were written from him, and I just wondered if maybe he didn't know how, right? But I did learn that he did know how, and that basically he communicated through the Arabic language, which I am not familiar with. I don't know if it looks anything like Hebrew. Like, to see Hebrew, I would recognize it. To see Arabic, well, yeah, I guess maybe I am, if Arabic is included on like Iraq and Iran. I guess I am familiar with it, but maybe it's something even older than that, or maybe it's slightly different than the way that it is used now. But anyway, another little interesting tidbit is that the Essenes, again, the Essenes and the Dead Sea Scrolls studies and copied religious texts. The Essenes. They studied the Dead Sea Scrolls and they copied other religious texts. So that makes sense. Okay, especially if Jesus was getting some of his information from the Essenes themselves while he studied with them. And there's no evidence of that, but this is something that I got during the Blackout reading, so I'm going to go with it. I'm not going to disclude it. I do all of my readings in whole. When you view them as a PowerPoint or a video, you're seeing it from the very beginning straight through to the end. There's no cutting anything out. I don't add anything at the end unless I note it. Like, for example, with that document, the mosaic tile and the link to the video about that came after the fact, but it was pertinent to the target, so I added it. A lot of the times what I'll do is I'll just add it as another video and call it a part 2 or 3 or 4 or whatever, okay? So essentially, again, I read that's St. Peter, and that's This right here is the mosaic. Found and excavated so carefully on a third level of dig that was more than 10 years old at least. Okay. So these are my thoughts at the end. Take them as you wish. Again, these are my thoughts during, kind of before, during, and after. Immediately after. Or again, because some evidence of information on the target being relevant and correct. I'll do either a separate video or add it to the slideshow and redo it, which I don't think I've done yet, but like I wouldn't never put it past myself to do that. So yeah, let's do that. Let me see if I can just read that to you. Waiting for the slide to come up. So what's that famous song or what's that famous line in a 60s song? You can't always get what you want, but if you try some time, you get what you need. I'm reminded of that now as I recall the first descriptive of this Blackout reading. From the very beginning, this reading seemed to want to be led to another story. Maybe even one that was far more important. Oftentimes that happens, hence the reference to that famous song. Just recently, I was introduced to a term that was in use almost 1,000 years ago in a Celtic tradition. My family name is derived from it. The term is Kaylee, or in English, companion. It is a fact that the Apostle Peter was certainly at least one important companion to Jesus, someone whom Jesus confided in, who may even have dropped some major tea to. And that's a reference to like documents or information or lessons that were taught to him from other famous, what do you call them, prophets, or again, just the Essenes and their kind of religious nobility. Okay, this reading was done on March 26, 2025. On April 25, 2025, I spotted something fascinating on my YouTube feed. It was a video. An archaeological team had been excavating a Byzantine church with 2 levels for some painstakingly long years when they suddenly discovered a 3rd lower level. This level turned out to be most certainly the site of the Church of the Apostles, which prior to had been the site of the childhood home of Apostles Peter and Andrew in a little fishing village called Bethsaida. Now, see, that's what I had forgotten. I believe I did mention. Excuse me. Did mention that it was the childhood home of Peter and Andrew. But this seems to kill 2 birds with 1 stone in that they didn't exactly know where the location or if the excavation site was indeed the Church of the Apostles. But after having found uh, the document in the form of the mosaic, they were almost certainly 100% certain that it was the location of the Church of the Apostles, but also that it was the site of the childhood home of Peter and Andrew. Okay, so I hope you find this interesting. I hope you find it relevant to something that you might be involved in right now. That normally happens to me in plenty of the readings. And again, it turned into something unexpected in terms of not really referencing anything concrete in regards to the Holy Grail, unless, of course, Jesus himself was the Holy Grail, or unless Peter or Jesus knew something about the Holy Grail. So this definitely is something that I will need to follow up on in the future. So be on the lookout for that, what they call Bolo, right? And yeah, just enjoy. And until next time, love you guys. Bye.